When playoffs roll around, it will be much harder for the superstar players on teams to really put up the numbers that they did in the regular season, and that's why in today's video I'm going to talk about 5 players who could really be X factors for their team in the playoffs and be the determining factor on how far they can go. I wanted to start off with William Nylander of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now you can bet whoever plays against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs, they're going to be loading up trying to defend Austin Matthews' line and then the John Tavares and Mitch Marner line, but I think William Nylander really could be an X factor and really determine how far the Maple Leafs go in the postseason. Obviously, William Nylander has been getting a little bit of hate for how he has played so far this season, but honestly over the past month or so I think he's been fantastic. I just don't really think the numbers are there to reflect how good he has been playing. When you miss such a big chunk of the season like Nylander did, it's no secret that you're not going to be the player that you want to be in your first couple of games, but I honestly think after like the first week or two that Nylander was back, he's just been constantly improving and taking steps in the right direction to find the game that he was playing at last year. 82 games played, 20 goals, and 41 assists for 61 points. William Nylander was a borderline all-star last season, and I think if he can really get back to that level come playoff time, this Toronto Maple Leaf team is going to be that much scarier. And I think it's been tough for Nylander because he hasn't really had a solidified line. He's been bumped around playing with Matthews and then playing on the third line, and I definitely think if William Nylander can get some constant line mates, gather some chemistry with them, and come playoff time, I honestly think William Nylander is going to be just fine and really help this Toronto Maple Leafs team make a deep run. Next up, I decided to go with William Carlson. Now, Vegas obviously isn't having the year that they had last year, and anyone probably could have told you that, and especially William Carlson, but honestly this season, his point totals compared to last year and just his overall play has almost been downright disappointing. In 64 games this year, he has 18 goals and 21 assists for 39 points, and is a -7 on a team that's in the playoffs right now, so you never like to see that. And in 82 games last year, he had 43 goals, 35 assists for 78 points, and was a +43. Now, obviously, he wasn't going to follow up that season, but he really hasn't even been remotely close to that. I really do like the addition of Mark Stone, though. I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off of William Carlson, and hopefully he can somewhat find his game, not produce at the level that he did last year, but produce at a higher rate than he is right now, especially for the postseason. In his playoff career, he has 25 games played, 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points, so he's been a pretty solid playoff performer, but I think if the Vegas Golden Knights want to have any chance of making a run in the playoffs like they did last year, they're going to need a lot more from William Carlson, and if he can, get back to somewhat of the level he was last year, I think he could be a huge X factor for this team, and we honestly could see Vegas go on another relatively deep playoff run if William Carlson really steps up his game. Next up is a little bit of a different one. Some people might not agree, but I went with Anthony Beauvillier of the New York Islanders. Now, New York is a very, very surprising team this year. What they have done there is truly amazing as they currently sit first in the Metropolitan Division. I'm pretty sure they're guaranteed to make the playoffs unless they go on a ridiculously bad run here in the second half stretch of the season. But Beauvillier last year, after he put up 36 points and 21 goals, I thought he was in for a breakout season this year where we could potentially see him be around a 50-point scorer, but he really hasn't even been close to that, as in 61 games he has just 14 goals and 7 assists for 21 points. Now, I think come playoff time, this New York team, Barzal is going to see a lot of bodies thrown at him, same with Josh Bailey and Anders Lee, and they don't really have the firepower, so I think they're going to need a lot of depth guys to step up and really make huge impacts come postseason time, and I think if Anthony Beauvillier can play at the level he was last season, and maybe even take a step forward from that coming playoff time, I honestly think that would be huge for this New York Islanders team, because Josh Bailey, Matt Barzal, and those guys are not going to single-handedly win you the series, so I think it would be huge if Beauvillier would really step up and play at a higher level, because that would just be one more player that the other team, one more offensive threat that they'd have to worry about, because I think he's a very talented player, and I definitely think he has a lot more to give than what he has shown this season, and in my opinion, if he really steps it up, he could be a huge X factor for the New York Islanders. Next is Patrik Laine of the Winnipeg Jets. Now, yes, it is no secret that he isn't having the year that a lot of people expected him to, and that Patrik Laine probably has wanted to, but of late, he has been a lot better. He finally got off that ridiculous skid that he was on where he was just goalless in around 15 games and just wasn't even looking engaged on the ice whatsoever, but he relatively has been pretty solid in his one playoff run that he's had so far. 5 goals, 7 assists for 12 points in the 17 postseason games last year for the Winnipeg Jets, and last year year, obviously in the regular season, he was unbelievable with 44 goals and 26 assists for 70 points. But this year, 29 goals, 13 assists for 42 points in 63 games. Still probably going to be a guy that can score around 35 this year, but not quite the season that he had last year. But I honestly think he was skidding at the right time, because you don't want Patrik Laine in that huge slump come playoff time, because he really is a big part of this team, and you can't just have a team relying on one line, the Scheifele and the Blake Wheelers of this team, to really bring them far into the playoffs. They're going to need all hands on deck, and I think when Patrik Laine is on, he's one of the most lethal players in the NHL. When he's scoring goals on the power play, it's really unstoppable. So I honestly think Patrik Laine, if he can find the game that he was playing at last year in the postseason, it would be really, really deadly for the Winnipeg Jets, and we potentially could see them go on another really, really deep playoff run. But I think a lot of it relies on Patrik Laine. He's been playing a lot better of late, which is nice to see, so I honestly think him slumping at that time was really a blessing in disguise. And now the last player I'll talk about in this video is Martin Jones of the San Jose Sharks. Now, San Jose has had a phenomenal year this season, but Martin Jones really just hasn't been very good. Yes, he has a fantastic record, but that is because he's playing on such a stacked team, but his numbers haven't been the greatest. 48 games played, 29 wins, 13 losses, and 5 overtime losses, a 2.95 goals against, and a .896 save percentage. And when you're starting goalie for a team that wants to make a run at the Stanley Cup, doesn't have over a 900 save percentage, you're probably going to be in a little bit of trouble. Now, last year, 30 wins, 22 losses, 6 OT losses, a 2.55 goals against, and a .915 save percentage, which are some pretty solid numbers for the San Jose Sharks. But Martin Jones, over his playoff career, he actually has been really fantastic. 22 wins, 18 losses, a 2.07 goals against, and a .926 save percentage. And those are relatively the numbers that you want to see from Martin Jones if you're a fan of the San Jose Sharks. And he hasn't been the player that we know he can be this year, and I think that maybe just because he's slacking off a little bit because he's playing on such a good team, I'm not quite sure, but I think when the playoffs roll around, Martin Jones is going to have to put up a lot better numbers than he has so far this regular season if the San Jose Sharks want to make any run at the Stanley Cup. But I think if he can play like the Martin Jones we know in the playoffs with that 2.07 goals against and the .926 save percentage, San Jose really could be in for a very, very long playoff run, but I think a lot of it does rely on Martin Jones. So that is going to wrap up the video. I really hope you guys did enjoy it, and make sure to let me know down in the comment section who are some players that are currently playing for a team that will most likely make the playoffs that you think will be a huge impact player and basically an X factor for them come playoff time. If you didn't agree, you don't have to hate, just make sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And with that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in the next video.